Alright, hello everybody. It is Saturday evening, a little after 6 o'clock. What we're going to do right now is the typical week in review, and then I'm going to combine that with the weekly outlook just because I don't feel like doing two videos when I can combine them into one. So, with that being said, the broader market yet again created another new high on both Wednesday and Friday. Thursday was a down day, obviously, and then towards the end of the day on Friday, we just steamrolled into close. I mean, I left early. I was very frustrated with myself. Made a lot of dumb mistakes, but once I pull this up, you'll see we just literally ripped. Literally right after I left, just ripped into close, and then we've held there just about ever since. Which is quite interesting. What we had this week as far as big movers, we had the Netflix call to 22 that just literally bombarded. That was a kamikaze play. That was a huge money play. As you can see, just kind of ripped and then held up. We had the LinkedIn play, which was a Monday to, let's see, which was a Monday to Wednesday play, and that was another great money play, and then it gave us a great short if you caught it at high. And then we had this Apple play, which on Thursday was probably $100,000 play, even if you just played with $3,000. Our target was 446. It hit a high of like 445-ish, something like that. Alright, no, 440 was the high. Alright, so whatever. But that was a huge play. Again. And then the Goldman Sachs, for those of you who are in Sangalucci's private chat room, you know that on Monday I came out and said that if we are still bullish on this broad market, expect this Goldman Sachs to hit higher than 155. Everyone kind of laughed at me, didn't think it had the juice for it. It hit 155 within about 2.5 days from my target. But after that, just kept going. That was another great play. And frankly, I think we're in a position now where you can't really expect anything less out of the SPY or the broader market. I think we just kind of continue to give one-day dips or a couple little day consolidation and then rip higher. So as far as that, I'm looking for a 169.1 target on the SPY. I do believe that we go into the 170s before we see any substantial multiple day pullback. If you follow Elliott Wave or any of that type of stuff, the target's 172 to 183 before pullback. That's a pretty big and broad target, I know. But that's that. After that, things get interesting. Netflix, I'm going to start looking for the short. My ideal target is, is right around the 117s. I think it's got a nice little base there, as we can see. Should be able to hold up. This is a very bullish chart. I will say this though, if it does look like it's going to get another push, it will see into the 260s. It's got a ton of momentum behind it, but I'm looking for the short right now. Netflix likes to pull these huge couple-day moves and then pull back a little bit, so 217's my ideal target on that. for another huge move. It could just bounce off the 222s, but we'll see. This Amazon, I've been waiting for this Amazon to pull a huge move for the longest freaking time. And a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, we got one. Got a real nice move. And then this week we had a nice Friday move and a nice Wednesday move. But my target for the Amazon is 275. But it is likely, very much likely, that it will create a new high along the way. This thing's been lagging for a couple weeks behind the, actually ever since the gap up on the first of the new year. This thing's really been lagging behind the SPY, and I think it's going to finally catch up and pull a pretty big week for us there. So I'm very, very much looking forward to that. The LinkedIn, when I reference the older or the longer time periods, that being the multi-day, the weekly, and that's about it. I'm noticing a lot of accumulation underway. They're kind of keeping it in a very tight channel. A lot of buying, lot of buying, despite the gap down on earnings. But I don't see any real sign of them dumping. So I'm realistically expecting a move back down towards like 170s. If the trend's going to continue. I will say though, if it breaks 179, I think I'm pretty safe with that move. I don't expect much more to the upside. Maybe a high of like 190, but I'm looking for the short here. However, sorry, I forgot about this for a second. However, I will. Oh, that's a terrible view. I will say, if it bounces off of the 179s, that low 179.65, it very well could just continue its trek north, as opposed to giving me the short play. So that's kind of an open play that I gotta keep an eye on during the day. Google, despite the obvious desire I have to short the crap out of this, I am gonna say that this will create a new high this week, and probably land somewhere into the 930s, possibly more. Very, very bullish. I think that this kind of just follows in parity with the SPY. When the SPY is ready to crap out, Google will follow suit. Apple has now had 2 failed breakout attempts on the longer time frame, that being the weekly. So I am looking for one final attempt this week for it to break out. What I'm expecting is a move like my target was last week of 446 and higher. If that fails after it makes that attempt, I'm kind of just expecting it to consolidate right around the 415s and whatnot, and just chop out until it gets some sort of bullish news, and then explode from there. But this, from what I can see on my indication, or my indicators rather, is a pretty bullish setup, and I like the possibility of a move well beyond this high right around 465. But we'll see what happens there. Price line has just massive accumulation on the weekly chart. My target is 850, which for those of you who follow Priceline, that is absolutely nothing, nothing for this stock. But I'm very bullish this right now, and I think it's got a lot more to go. Just going to quickly reference these 850s, see what we're working with here. All right, the 850s are trading around $1.50 right now, which is a pretty fair price for what it's at right now, I guess, because it pulls those huge moves. So that's something to keep an eye on. This Baidu we haven't really talked about much lately. Hasn't really done a whole lot, except last week did pull a pretty big move. Chopped around here, tested lows. There was no conviction to go back down. Tested highs, no real conviction to go back up. Chopped out the rest of the week. Very much inside this Wednesday candle, which I do like because I'm very bullish this stock overall. I think it tests the gap at 100. Whether or not it goes into it and closes it remains to be seen. But I like a move to 100, and I like those calls at 100 as well. Those are at 35 cents right now, so that has the potential to be quite a nice play. Fossil, we don't really talk about much either. I like a 10-point move for Fossil, not all in one day, obviously, but I think it gets a bounce towards new high. Targets at 118, but it's showing like it wants to go down more. I think that's bunk. I personally think that it wants to break out. I think that big red day we had on Thursday was the fake out, and I think that we're going to get a nice move. I'm sure those Fossil calls for what I guess it would be 120. Pretty cheap. They're right around 40 cents. Unfortunately, these Fossils only give us monthly, so you're getting a ton of time premium on that, which sucks, but it is what it is. The Caterpillar, I like to go deeper into the 190s. I would need to see a test of 90.7, break of that, and I think pretty deep. By that I mean like 94, 95 is possible. Doesn't really like to do any crazy point weeks, and it's been very much held in check lately, which is why I'm kind of looking for a big week here. What's next? IBM. This IBM has been laying dormant for the past 2.5 weeks, as you can see. Bullish, but not really doing much. Pulled a pretty big day on Friday, which I like. Got deeper into that gap and finally closed that gap here. My target for IBM is, simply put, new highs. It's got highs around 215. So just to be cute, I'll say 216 is my target. But I looked at those 215 calls earlier this morning before I did this, and if I remember correctly, they were pretty damn cheap. Yeah, the 215s are priced in at like 13 cents, so on Monday you should be able to get them for a dime. And if it gets, I mean, I very much do not like doing this, trying to price in moves and whatnot, but for this I'm going to. On Monday, those should open at a nickel according to this price model, which I personally don't buy, but if you get a 5-point move, you're looking at over a 10-bagger, which we do like. So that's that. On to the back of my page here. This Lulu has been very interesting. It did break high on Tuesday after having a bit of trouble since that incident with the pants, where guys could see the girls' butts. Personally, I have no problem with that, but I guess most of America does. I'm saying it's probably going to create new highs, but with that being said, I am looking for the short. I want to see it break. What was the low there? Ideally, I'd like to see it break 79 on the nose. If that happens, I think we go back down to 74, 73. But that's something longer term that we're going to have to keep an eye on. Goldman. Goldman pulled a huge, ridiculous move, which I loved. And I'm very much still bullish on this. I think if we get a bit of a fade on the market early during the week, I'm going to load up as many 160 calls as my account can, and I'm going to hold them to the promised lands because they're going to be pretty big. But my target there is 163. After that, I mean, if it breaks out with volume, I think you kind of got to assume that it's going to break this high. It's been very much lagging despite the big week it had this past week. Hasn't really done much. It did break out of its downtrend, going back up now. But if this market keeps rip-roaring, I very much expect Goldman to have a big week as well. I would not be shocked to see a 10-point week. It is very close to this high here at 159. But I think it's got a couple points past that for sure. I looked at BA and Citigroup before. I didn't really like their charts, so I'm not going to talk about them. Visa was lagging for a long time, and then it pulled just a massive day. And this Visa was another one that I was talking to a lot of the guys in the Lucci chat room about, and we all kind of agreed that it was due for a big move. Unfortunately, it pulled a kamikaze move on us on that Friday expiration, which was a little bit too risky for most of us to handle. So we didn't do anything with it. But hold on. We didn't do anything with it, but I think it's got a little bit of a follow through there. I'm looking for right around 190 before I look to go short on it, or at least expect it to chop out. So that's a pretty bullish thing right now. This Mastercard, another one, pulled a freaking 14-day move, and nobody saw it coming. It pulled 38 points this week, and nobody knew what was even going on. Nobody had heard of any news from it or anything. So that was pretty cool. I have a $600 target on that. I think if these broader market again is going to continue, I think the credit cards and the banks are going to be a big part of it while the techs do their thing. Don't get me wrong, I expect big move out of some of these techs, but I think the favor is going to start leading towards these credit cards and banks because a lot of them have been very dormant during much of this run, while these big name techs, the Apples, Amazon, LinkedIn, Google, Netflix, have a Priceline, have been leading the charge, creating new highs and whatnot. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then finally, this JP Morgan, I like 55 on it. It did create highs, so that kind of can psychologically mess with people. But it closed up there, and again, if this market's going to continue, I expect these banks to go with it. I did look at these solars. I looked at Tesla. Tesla's just out of control. These solars aren't even worth playing. If you reference the options chains until midweek, if I can get a bump down on this FLSR, I'll probably look to go long. Same thing with this SCTY. If you look at that options chain, it's just even worse because it's a monthly. So that's something I'm going to keep on the back burner for 30 days from now. But that's all I really have for that. like usual, a lot of you are wondering why I don't update targets during the day, or really what I'm doing during the day. A lot of that is because I'm busy trying to figure out what's going on with the stock I'm looking at, and all of that. This 3K challenge has really uh, shown me areas that I need to improve my own trading. Unfortunately, with this challenge comes a lot of uh, like mental things that come into it. Like I mean, listen, I don't want to lose. Nobody wants to lose, but with this challenge, you just put more pressure on yourself to make as much money in the shortest amount of time possible. So that really just confuses you. And obviously, we saw that with my LinkedIn trade, my Amazon or my Apple trade. I missed literally over $100,000 this week just because I was worried about losing a couple $100. So that's something that I'm working on this week. I'm going to work on real hard, just holding my conviction, and knowing that I'm right. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But we've been doing pretty well with these calls and these targets lately. That I think the odds are in my favor that I'm doing something right, I guess. But I'm also in the Lucci chat room, and frankly, between Twitter and the chat room, it's more, or it's easier and much more fun for me to just talk in the chat room. For those of you guys who are interested in that, I definitely suggest talking to Lucci. The chat room's cheap, and it's well worth it in my opinion. A lot of great traders there, a lot of great insight. Lucci's there himself. Um, They also have the chat room with Peter and the other guys at Lucci, but I'm not in that one yet. Maybe I'll get the hookup for that later. But I definitely suggest some sort of chat room, whether it's Lucci or Keen on the Market, or someone else. I mean, I get no commission from this at all. It's just my personal preference to be somewhere where I can interact with people throughout the day. Kind of makes it a lot easier as opposed to just being by yourself trading alone, which is the worst part about what we do, but it is part of it nonetheless. And if not, you could always hit me up on Skype, shoot me an email. The email's in my Twitter sig, and I'll hook you up there. We'll talk, whatever. But that's all I got for you guys right now. If anything comes up, I will be sure to let you know. And that's really it. I do wonder about this Apple tape, though. If there's anything crazy after hours on Friday. If there was, if you could just let me know, because I missed that part of the day. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks, and enjoy the rest of your